Good evening, everyone. Welcome to March, I can't believe it's March 2nd, budget hearing. Mr. Ongli, can you please take attendance? Thank you.
Joe Abdallah. Here. Victoria Ceylon. Here. Stephanie Kolnick. Here. Jesse Liebman. Here. Angela Maciarulo. Here. Alex McNaughton. Here. Justin Ongli. Here. Jen Pody.
Here.
Jane Sargent.
I think she's on.
Pete Tagley.
Uh-oh,
All right.
he's coming.
And Mary is here, and Christine.
Okay, thank you. I hand it over to Dr. Shells.
Well, thank you and good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for coming to our budget presentation tonight. I'm at a slight handicap. There are some folks in the audience who are aggravated out of the gate because they're here and not at a basketball game. Don't feel embarrassed if you're checking the score. The last update that Chipaw's in the championship game against Nonawag over at, I think, Thomaston High, and the last update we had from Angela is we were up by 2 points with 5 seconds left. So I think yeah. So when I'm talking about all the good things we deliver, I hope to be able to deliver another championship to you in about 2 minutes, but we'll see. I won't count my chickens on that. So tonight I want to talk about our upcoming budget. And a budget, of course, the first thing you think when you hear about a budget is dollars and cents, and that's obviously part of the nuts and bolts of it. But really, a budget has a more soulful component than that. A budget is like a mirror that tells an organization or a school who it is, what its values are, what its priorities are, where it's going. So when we look at this budget, we have to spend time, when we look at the story of this budget in a few minutes, reflecting on our values and priorities. And they were set by a team in this district, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but the budget has to reflect those, and they have to, we know, secure the resources to meet the needs of our students. Oh, Ben, do you have the slideshow? Because you can go to the next. And along with meeting the needs of our students, the budget has to secure the resources we need to help our students forward. But it has to embody fiscal responsibility. And it has to confer value in the eyes of our taxpayers, and it has to align with our identity and our footprint. Okay, Ben.
Chipawg won.
Chipawg won. All right. Could be the first time a superintendent got applause at a budget hearing. But it was on the
Civic had the winning shot.
It's on the backs of the basketball team, but so be it. All right, that's wonderful news, and we're proud of our kids. And wins are nice, but I'm proud of them for other reasons. I'll talk about that more later. So I said our budget at the first instance is a reflection of our identity and footprint. So we consider at the outset who we are in terms of our demographics and those needs and our current enrollment and what the enrollment trends are. And we consider our faculty and staff and whether we're adequately staffed. And with respect to our current picture of students and staff, we are in a period of relative stability. So those are not big drivers in this budget, although there will be a slight change we're making in how we're deploying staff next year in our plans. I'll go over that later. But overall, there is a great stability in our identity and footprint as far as enrollment and faculty staffing goes. So we can turn to then our core values. And I said that our budget has to reflect and has to be a mirror of our priorities and values. And this district's priorities and values were set a few years ago by a really well-intentioned and hardworking team of stakeholders from across the district, parents, teachers, students, board members, community members, and they gathered and they participated in creating a strategic plan, which is our way forward. And our priorities and our values are laid out in that plan, and they are expressed by our choices and actions. And when I talk about the choices we're making in this budget, the things that we're asking for, the projects that we're going to move forward, I'll be able to tell you how they all flow from the fountain of that strategic plan. And under that plan, our stakeholders reflected long and hard, and they decided that this region, Region 12, will deliver powerful learning to our students. Best practices in the area of teaching and learning that build critical thinkers who are empathetic, who engage with the community, who can innovate, who move their ideas forward, and that we're going to develop the right techniques and methods to help that bloom in our kids. The plan says that we're going to develop strong connections with families and with our community. It says that we're going to build and maintain and enhance a climate of belonging. A climate of belonging is one where everyone feels accepted. They feel like they belong in the space and they feel safe. The plan promises that we will innovate and come up with creative solutions across all the aspects and facets of our operation. And these are the values then that drive who we are, have driven who we are, and will drive this budget that I'm about to talk to you about today. But there's a bigger story in this budget too. And for me, I like to get at what I think is the most soulful part of any budget. The story of this budget will tease out a partnership, a long-standing partnership between the schools and its community. The story of taxpayers who routinely say yes to our requests for the good of our students, historically, methodically, nearly constantly say yes to the needs of our students. So therefore, it's also the story of our gratitude, the gratitude we feel for the support from our communities, and the hard work we feel bound to do, impelled to do, to deploy all the resources you've given us for the good of our students. It's the story of a budget that will confer value in the eyes of our communities by getting what we need for our students at reasonable cost to our taxpayers. So this is a partnership then in support of our strategic plan. It's the story of a year, we'll see in a minute, of no big asks but full of big returns. A story of students and teachers doing great things, standing on the shoulders of the support that the board and the towns have previously provided. So I think I want to talk for a minute then about what you have provided and how they're going to be used to build the foundation that will drive where we're going this year. Think for a second about all the prior impactful investments that this board and our community have supplied over the last several cycles. Math intervention at Chippewa, a full-time social worker for our district, development of Link Crew at Chippewa. For folks who don't know, Link Crew is a research-validated peer-to-peer program that helps students connect to climate, feel like they belong, and acclimate to a place when they might otherwise feel uncomfortable by getting help from student peers who are trained to do that under faculty supervision. We developed that with support from this board in our towns. You gave us a new state-mandated reading program, led very ably by Ms. Snowden, rooted in the science of reading, helping us build literacy in our elementary students under the widest possible understanding of that word literacy. That's the ARC reading program. You supported that. You supported a teaching and learning initiative that might be the most powerful lever we're using right now, called Leaders of Their Own Learning. And we had an acclaimed speaker come in and deliver a keynote address to us about it. And ever since then, we've been building on his work each year to help teachers help students become leaders of their own learning, become involved in what they're doing, have their hearts and minds in their work rather than just be compliant. And we can move that forward now too, and will. We have a refurbished planetarium with incredible digital capabilities and the personnel to support it because of what we've gotten in the past. And we have 3 armed security officers in our elementary schools and a full-time security presence at Chippewa to help our students feel and stay safe. And if you've supported and you have all those investments, one question you might have up front is, what are the returns on those investments? What results are we delivering with what you've given us? And it's time for me to stop and just share a few points of pride about our schools. U.S. News and World Report ranks Chippewa in the top 20% of Connecticut high schools. Niche.com ranks Region 12 as in the top 20% of Connecticut districts. Region 12 teachers ranked 10th in the state by Niche, That's the top 8%. Over the last several years, all of our elementary schools received one status or another as a school of distinction under all of these different ranking programs. And overall, our district has a grade of A from Niche, and they specially emphasize the fact that we have a small, tight-knit community that focuses on personalization. And we can cite results in terms of external measures, too. Our percentage of students meeting SAT benchmarks and ELA and math exceed the state level by far, and the levels of all our sending towns and all the regions around us. This is not to say that this is not a growth area for us. As long as we have any students not meeting benchmark, we're going to be dedicating ourselves to moving that forward. And a child is more, every human being is more nuanced and more than the measure of a standardized test score. But these are one measure, one external measure of what we're doing, an external check on how teaching and learning is going. And for the investment that you all have provided, we are delivering that return. And the percentage of students meeting SBAC goals, which is the test taken in elementary and middle school, not the SAT, but the SBAC, surpassed the levels achieved in 10 of the 12 sending and surrounding regional towns. So by that measure, we have a lot to be grateful for and proud of. And there's more, of course, than all of that. There's the kind of students that we're building and what they're learning to love, what they're learning to do. Every time a student plays a concerto, paints a painting, does a new science experiment, writes an essay, thinks critically about something, weighs in on an historical idea, something amazing is happening. And that's to be protected and guarded. And we have metrics of those kinds of things too. I say here, I want to remind us that we're developing Renaissance people. You see the artwork around us. But we've had in the past year 3 state champions from Chippewa, 6 Berkshire League champions, multiple sportsmanship award winners, multiple Halo award winners. Do you know what the Halos are? The Halos are the high school equivalent of like the Tonys or the Oscars, that kind of thing. And we had students win for best costume, best lighting, prop and sound design, best female and male actors in a musical, best male actor in a comedy. And we had multiple individual and team state and national CDE awards in agri-science. Did we not, Mr. Cremines? Yes, we did. So all of that shows that the return on your investment is palpable, and I'm so glad for that. And I just want to stop and say, I've always thought, when you think about what it really takes to make this world go round and how we get through life together and the crises that we get through together and manage what could be an otherwise hostile environment, if you want doctors and hospitals and lawyers and courts and engineers and businesses and artists and musicians and tradespeople, first you have to have this. First you have to have the school and the teachers who work with our students. And it's through, again, your investment, your support, that we've been able to develop these kind of kids and get to where we are. Okay. So the next part of the story is you've built a foundation for us. That's the case I tried to just make. Now I want to make the case for what we're going to do with that foundation, and at a very reasonable cost. So those investments allow us to do big things with low cost. And the metaphor I love is we are looking for the little rudder that turns the big ship. And that's what all these projects are. So based on the strength of the foundation that you've provided, we're going to continue with gusto, with leaders of their own learning, to improve the quality of instruction here and make sure that every student learns to take ownership through choice and engagement, ownership of their own passions for learning and their own capabilities. We're going to develop a middle school version of Link Crew to give them the same benefits of connection and belonging that the high school kids have. We're going to launch new dual enrollment courses at Chippewa. That means dual enrollment, students are going to be able to earn more college credit. In this case, through UConn ECE courses in a couple of exciting areas like personal financial literacy, and 2 new music courses in ear training and a course that has to do with popular music and diversity in America. And we have a really exciting new social studies course, Contemporary Social Issues in Sports. We can continue the College and Career Accelerator, which is a partnership that we built with EdAdvance, and that allows students, when it comes to scale, it's not to scale yet, but when it comes to scale, a student could leave Chapag with a high school diploma and an associate's degree. That's pretty exciting. And right now, what they're doing is taking several courses, growing this right now, in engineering type and manufacturing type coursework that will help them as they move forward to college or the workforce. And that's at no additional expense because of the relationships we've built. We're going to continue adding our teachers' voices to the strategic plan. Through our Teaching and Learning Council, led by Ms. Snowden, and through the board's support and taxpayer support, these teachers can work on big global issues like developing and enhancing our curriculum, writing our curriculum, developing our vision of the learner, and coming up with the best ways to connect to new teaching and learning practices. We're revitalizing Senior Project at Chapag, and one of the most exciting ways is helping them develop better relationships with community technical advisors, because we had fallen into a place where kids, and this speaks well to our teachers, wanted to connect with people in-house, and that was comfortable, but maybe didn't stretch them as much as connecting with outside experts might, and maybe didn't build the same kind of connections with the community that we hope for. We are developing and implementing a K-12 vision of the learner, which is a blueprint for and a statement of and a promise to all of you about the skills and dispositions that a child will have when they leave us that are relevant to their life the day after they leave, to what they're going to do next, and to their participation in a local and a global community. We're going to intensify our elementary connection to STEM education, which is really exciting. STEM education is more important than ever, and there is a sequence called Project Lead the Way that can run all the way up through high school, and this is something where students can do hands-on work to solve engineering type problems, and we're going to invest in some engineering kits for our students. I'll tell you about that later in the elementary schools. We're going to continue the world language program that we started with your prior support in the elementary schools, and we're going to add physical therapy and occupational therapy to our in-house suite of services. We already have folks doing great work in PT and OT, but they had been classified and accounted for as independent contractors up until now. And we just had advice from council that due to the nature of the work they're doing and the degree to which they focus only on this school, they're better conceived legally as employees than as independent contractors. So you're going to see a shift in the way we classify those folks, and they will show up on our FTE balance, but it's budget neutral because we're just changing the line item from where we're drawing their compensation. We're going to continue all of the following powerful teaching and learning initiatives. Primary partners, where the elementary students get to come up to Chapag and be together in the presence of each other rather than being separated, and for those segments connect with expertise here in this building and have a great experience in different types of subjects. Past rotations have been in STEM, have been in the arts, and that will continue in agri-science. We're going to keep doing that. We're going to continue 5th grade Agri-Science Day, where students can visit and take advantage of our agri-science features. We've got math professional development that we're going to continue to grow on that will train teachers to help kids become independent math learners by encountering novel problems and learning how to solve them rather than needing direct support all the time. We're going to continue our math intervention work that you've supported us in before. We're going to continue the ARC reading program. We're going to continue flock theater in our elementary schools, which is an incredibly powerful experience for our littles. They take the stuff they're learning in their reading curriculum, all that great stuff designed to build their literacy, and then they migrate it over into an experience where they turn it into a play and a puppet show with experts from the outside who help them do that, have fun, make it come to life, but also cement the ideas that were launched in the classroom. We're going to continue our support for the Model UN trip, and we're going to continue to leverage all the new technology that you let us invest in over the past several cycles to do exciting things like use Max and advanced software so kids can operate in sound design, in music design, and in Photoshop, and in CAD/CAM, and in robotics. We're going to continue all of that. That positions me to be able to say tonight to our board that this budget will give us what we need to move our strategic plan forward and support our kids and move them towards excellence. And at the same time, I can look at our taxpayers and say we're doing it with fiscal responsibility. This year's budget, to help us forward, does include some modest additional requests to help us build on the foundation I just described. The Project Lead the Way kits that I talked about a moment ago for our elementary students across all 3 schools in grades 3, 4, and 5 will cost approximately $15,000. We have new instructional software that are letting teachers design something called breakout room lessons, where students engage with curriculum and they solve problems in math or science or history, and the solution to those problems becomes the key or the clue to escape from the breakout room. It's very exciting. We need textbooks for the new ECE courses that I talked about a few moments ago, $6,000. We need new basketball uniforms. They get worn out, they get tattered. We buy them in cycles as they get worn down. Next year, we're looking to buy new boys basketball uniforms. The last uniforms we bought were for the girls basketball team, and that helps kids with a sense of climate and belonging and pride in who they are, that they look well and decent when they're supported by us when they're out competing and representing our school. And we're going to support our choir's trip to Radio City Music Hall, which is an amazing experience for our kids. Music is a performing art. Some folks worry that we haven't spent enough time and energy or money on the arts around here. I cannot abide that. We're going to get performance opportunities for our kids, and there's none better than standing on the stage at Radio City Music Hall and having a New York City audience watch you sing. So we're going to support that. Additional items requested in this budget: funding for our Teaching and Learning Council to complete our curriculum maps. This board and our stakeholders want that project to be completed, and I can tell you that under Ms. Snowden's leadership, we've made incredible strides, and quantum leaps, and we want to bring that home now, and we're going to invest in doing that to get our curriculum maps done by helping with the Teaching and Learning Council doing that work to make sure that that project gets finished. We've also talked as a board about the importance of maintaining the barn, and at times have undergone self-studies of improvement about whether we were cleaning the barn sufficiently to keep it the way we want it to be. And so that's been on our minds, and we need some automated equipment to helping us clean the barn, and that costs $5,000. We need some training for our faculty to use assistive technology for our students. It's not a big cost, but it's a high return. There's platforms now, things like that are called Diffit and Notebook LM, that will let a teacher take a text that they really want students to engage with in terms of the content, but modify it for each kid's needs in terms of lexile or reading level, meet them where they are at that moment. Very powerful tools like that, and we're getting our teachers trained on how to do that. And there's a cost for it, but it's a cost that we should embrace. And then we're also doing a self-study on improvement of counseling services at Chapag. And one thing revealed in that study was that we're not leveraging technology as well as we could to help empower students make choices when they're moving towards college and career. And we're going to move away from Naviance to something called School Links that's more powerful with more features, more user-friendly for our kids, and there's a small cost attached to that. I told you before that we were basically stable in terms of staffing, and that's true. But here's a point that I should make. We're reducing one section of FTE at Washington Primary School because we have 2 sections right now of 3rd grade that will not be, we will only need 1 section for them next year. So we're going from 2 sections to 1, and that will realize a savings of 1 FTE. But that's not driven by the budget, it's a fact of our enrollment and our enrollment needs. And then the other staff change I explained earlier, you'll see a 1.25, what looks like a 1.25 increase for adding OT and PT services, but that has no budgetary impact because we're merely changing the way we're accounting for how those folks are compensated. Our towns always want to know, and when I talk to our selectmen who are very, by the way, very good advocates for their constituents, and very concerned about making sure that they not only support the schools, but that they take care of the folks in their towns. They're always reminding me, Don, are you looking for grants when you can find them to help offset costs? And our team takes a look at any of the grants that we could possibly be qualified for. And it's not so easy in our towns because many grants are means tested based on need, and it's hard for us to get as much as some other folks based upon our ability to pay. Nevertheless, our team scours those grants, leaves no stone unturned, and we will have $30,000 from Title I to support a 2-year sequence of training for our counselors to help them forward under our improvement and self-study plan. There's an additional $60,000 in Titles I and II that will fund a lot of the staff professional development that I've been talking about. There's $363,000 from IDEA grants. IDEA is the individuals, with Disabilities Education Act. So special ed funding to support services and placements for special ed students, including services we have to provide to folks who live in the region but attend private school. And $55,000 from Perkins Fund grants and private donations for a Bobcat skid steer to support our agri-science operations. And when I was talking to a few folks about this earlier this morning, I said, if you're anything like me, maybe you had to ask, what the heck is that? Do you know anybody know what a Bobcat skid steer is? Maybe you all do. Tyler, you're laughing. You think that I should know this, right? It turns out to be one of those things that beep when they drive around Home Depot and they pick up pallets and they move them. And that's important for our operations and important for our students to learn how to use, but also they're going to learn how to work on them and repair them, which is maybe the most powerful part of it. Okay. And also, people want to know, you talk a lot about fiscal responsibility. Are you doing that? Are you cashing that in through your actions and your choices? And I want you all to consider something for a second. In support of my contention that I'm now prepared to defend, that we hyper-focus on keeping track of our pennies because we know they add up to dollars. And I've had incredible support and guidance from our Director of Finance, who helps me understand these things and even clips my wings when needed if I need to be brought back on track about this responsibility, which I'm grateful for, actually. And when those pennies add up to dollars, those dollars meet our needs more efficiently without us having to ask you for more money. Think for a second about the space you're in right now, which is very nice, very nicely transformed. And I also might be a very nice metaphor for the point I'm trying to make. This library learning commons was completely transformed, and it was financed by money left over after scouring our budget all year long for savings. And we found, after doing that exercise, $519,000 for this space through hypervigilance and an austere mindset. And this space needed the work. After the time that the furniture here did not owe us a penny, believe me. And the last time it was refurbished was a very long time ago. It was not an aesthetic want, it was a functional need. And if those needs were moved forward by some superintendent, one of my predecessors or me, moved forward formally in the budget, that would have kicked the budget up by more than 2% with what we were asking from our taxpayers. But instead, we made it happen within our current means. That's a mindset that we adopt all the time. This is one big, obvious, shining example of it. There are smaller, new examples that aren't as exciting, but that give you a window onto how we helps these pennies aggregate to dollars. Just the other day, I was talking to our facilities director, and he was diligent in figuring out how a project that initially would have involved 2 different contractors, 2 different fees, all to get the same kind of thing done, was collapsed through his clever negotiation, his clever reconception of the project, and resulted in a big savings, working with Nicole, in a big savings that now is available to us to do something important with. Okay, so building our budget, what's the process very quickly that we go through? Departments and school principals attended meetings to discuss their needs with me and with Nicole. And after those meetings and after their submissions, I worked with the business office who helped me determine our upcoming costs, contractual payroll costs, benefit costs, other operational expenses. And requests were submitted to me across all our operations totaling $573,738. And after review and consideration of those requests, reductions were made by me totaling $189,000, and cost savings were realized totaling $255,000. And in that exercise, I can tell you, and that's why I promised before that we're set to give our kids what they need, no cuts were made to instructional or enrichment programs that impact our students. Some of the bigger drivers, and there'll be a budget workshop next week where we can look, if we want to, actually at what those cuts were. But we delayed a decision, a need to repave the lower driveway here at Chapag, saving $90,000. And we had a jump in our teaching and learning curriculum budget some years ago to let us pay for the ARC reading program that I told you about. And the plan, when that increase happened, was always to bring that line item down to actual costs once that reading expense went away. So we were able to, now that we've had that investment made, go back down to our historic needs and our actual needs in teaching and learning, letting us save another $41,000. So here's the slide maybe some of you have been waiting for. That leads us, in order to do what I said we're going to do, in order to take care of our kids, in order to move our strategic plan forward, make sure that our kids have the best and that they can move towards excellence, and do it in a way that's fiscally responsible, I'm proposing a budget in the amount of $29,128,139, which is a gross increase of 3.11% over last year. But when you adjust by adding or subtracting our anticipated agri-science revenue of $1,845,000, then you get the bottom line of $27 million, which represents an actual increase of 2.96% to our towns. This slide that you're looking at, Ben, I'm ready to go to the next, sorry. This slide shows some of the big drivers that led to some of the increases. Staff salaries are up 3.35%. Employee benefits are up 7.67%. Special education costs, rooted in services, outplacements, and those kinds of things are up 23.78%. Capital facilities improvement is up by a large number, but I'll break that down in a minute to tell you why that's palatable and necessary. That's the total of increases, yet we're only requesting, not that total, but $879,000 more. That means we found some additional savings, and that's outlined on the next slide. This shows the impact of areas of cost savings. In technology, we're down 28%, transportation down 2.6%, copiers down 10%, superintendent's office down 4%. I don't take those fancy trips like a lot of my colleagues do. I'm here with the working men and women. I want everybody to understand that. Debt service is down, and between Don and Nicole, they got on Frontier or Verizon and beat them down and realized an incredible savings in our telephone service. We're down 30%. We're down, those are savings of $255,000, and they mitigate the number of increases that I talked about before. Some of the reasons are, for technology, last year's budget included replacement of several devices that are now in a 3 or 4 year replacement cycle, and we're not going to have a cost for them this year. In terms of transportation, we combined a bus run. Our new 5-year copier lease has better terms, and we eliminated Frontier to get the results on those phone lines. Our debt service is just down over time, and that's all good news. Here's our capital facilities budget request. These are projects that are urgent and that we consider need to be done in this year, but they're not all items that are paid for in the budget. Some of it is these projects are funded through the budget, but some of them come from the CNR fund, which is the capital non-recurring fund, and some of them are funded by the 2% fund. And you can look on this slide And what you're seeing on this slide is on the far side, the location where work is going to be done. And then next to that, you see what kind of work is going to be done. And they're all things where our physical plant needs immediate attention. And then the remaining columns show you how much of the cost will come from the actual budget request that I'm making, and how much will come from other funding sources that don't impact the budget tonight, and then the total cost. And this is obviously, this slideshow will be posted online. Ben, you can do that, right? So you don't need to take notes on this. You'll be able to see it and have it. And talk about it at the budget workshop next week. Okay. And then on the horizon, there are just exciting things to think about that aren't part of this budget, but we look forward and we have to have vision if we want to stay sharp and stay in the vanguard of the region like I think we are. We're thinking about art room renovations at Chippewa because it's getting kind of old and dingy in there. We need a cafeteria renovation at Chippewa, and we're looking into that. We know the board has been collaborating with a wonderfully inclusive, very functional committee that's been talking between our three towns about who we are and where we're going and what recommendations the board will follow to see where we go in terms of how we conceive of our physical configuration. And that project is in force. And then we have a 10-year capital plan that we build out that shows kind of like the same stuff that you saw on this last slide that I had up a minute ago, except each for every year of the next 10 years. Okay. Okay, Ben. Now this slide will also be of interest, and I'm almost done. I know I'm a little bit over time. This breaks down our budget request by town. So what you're looking at on this chart is you see all the way over on the left-hand side for this budget cycle, the membership percentage based on October 1 enrollment. You see the next down in the next row is the net assessment for this budget year, and also the net assessment for the prior budget year, and that shows you what the increase is to each town based upon the budget that I'm proposing. So Bridgewater is at 26.5% of the budget, Roxbury at 29.2%, and Washington at 44.1% of the budget. The related dollar amounts appear underneath that. And the increase to each town over last year is the last row. For Bridgewater, $674,000, Roxbury, $35,000, Washington, $75,000. That net assessment is after agri-science revenue and tuition in credits. The final impact to our towns has to take into account that we just completed our audit, which isn't always done in time for this budget talk, but this year it was. And based upon the audit, we know what we can release to each town based upon additional tuition in revenue that we collected and additional budget surplus that we found. So we are able to distribute to each town the numbers listed on this slide from those surplus funds and that additional tuition income. We can distribute $162,000 to Bridgewater, $195 to Roxbury, and $326 to Washington. And so on the prior slide, you saw the increase to our taxpayers. We're mindful of the impact of that, and we're happy to be able to offer this offset to each town, showing the net cost to each town over in the far right column. After that offset is applied, the increase in Bridgewater at $512,000, and then Roxbury and Washington, their situation is also laid out. I just want to close by saying a sincere thank you to our board and to our community. I have a phrase that I often say. Some of you are maybe sick of hearing it, but I hope not, because I mean it earnestly, and I think it's a powerful idea. And the phrase is, every school is a reflection of the community that it serves. And I know folks who work in other schools who don't enjoy the same kind of input and support and dedication that we have here, and we're grateful for it. and for our board and our community members, when through your presence and your intentions and your effort and your volunteer work and your money, you support the schools, you get the kinds of projects and trajectory that I laid out before, and you show that you have the will to be a community that supports schools, and that reflects in the schools that you in fact have. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Don. And thank you, Don and Nicole and everybody at Central Office for all of your hard work. I know that you put a lot of effort into it, so we appreciate it. So, thank you. And I believe now we have a motion to adjourn this meeting so that we can have another meeting after this. So could I have a motion to adjourn? Can I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Great. Okay, so we move on to the next one. Welcome to the next meeting. To our March 2nd meeting, 7/13, 14. Mr. Ongley. Yes. Can we have a call for attendance?
Joe Abdallah. Here. Victoria Ceylon. Here. Stephanie Kolnick. Here. Jesse Liebman. Here. Angela Maciarulo.
Here.
Alex McNaughton. Here. Justin Ongley. Here. Jen
Can you
Pody.
say something here?
Jane Sargent.
Here. Here.
Pete Tagley. Here. Mary Weber. Here. And Christine Weidig.
Thank you. Next, we have, which we love, the recognition of our visual arts students.
Okay. Somebody before this evening said to me, I bet making snow day calls is the worst part of your job. That's what they said. But now comes one of the best parts of my job. Now comes the time I get to celebrate the work of our students, and it's a wonderful thing. So we're here to celebrate tonight work that our students have done in the fine arts. I like to say when I go to a concert here or when I see artwork, and I believe this, there's no greater gift we can give our kids than to teach them to play a musical instrument or to sing or to engage in the fine arts. So we're going to see some celebrations here of some wonderful work, and I hope all the folks are here to get their due. Is Odin Cochran here? Okay, but I can tell you about Odin's work. If the principals want to come up and join, they can. That's up to you. Principals want to come up here to when your kids. Now, first graders explored. Let's see. I think that's it. First graders explored the meaning of portraiture, discovering that portraits can include both people and animals. Odin created his own unique giraffe portrait using a mix of primary and secondary colors. He then applied oil pastels to design a foliage background using a wax-resistant technique to add texture and contrast to his artwork. So that's amazing, and congratulations to him from us.
He was so excited about it. He wouldn't stop talking about it all last week, but I think with the snow days and the moving of the meeting, he couldn't make it today. But he was very excited to receive this.
Oh, and I should have said Odin's from Booth Free School. And from Burnham, is Susanna Lanise here?
Yes.
Come on up, Susanna. Yeah, that's to your credit. That's to your credit that you don't think you want the spotlight, but you deserve it. So let me say a few words, okay? Susanna, second graders, here, stay here for 1 second. I only look like Shrek. I'm not really an ogre. I'm not scary, don't worry. Second graders study the artwork of Henri Matisse, focusing on his bold use of complementary colors in the Goldfish series. Inspired by one of his paintings, Susanna carefully drew and painted her piece using tempera and acrylic paint markers to add detail. That's remarkable. Wonderful work. You should be very proud of that. You do, okay. And then from Washington Primary School, is Liliana Jacinto here? Come right on up, Lily. All right, stay here while we celebrate your painting for a second, please. Congratulations. Kindergartners learned about self-portraits, discovering that they can be realistic or abstract and don't always have to look exactly like the artist. Stop the presses. Maybe I could do a self-portrait if that's the, if it doesn't, okay, I'm gonna. After exploring the bold lines, shapes, and colors in the work of Sandra Silberzweig, Liliana was inspired to create her own expressive portrait. She carefully used oil pastels for strong outlines and added vibrant color with chalk pastels to complete her piece. Wonderful work. Congratulations. At Chappaq, grade 8, middle school, Kiki Bowman. Is Kiki here? Come on up, Kiki. Congratulations. Let's say a few things about your wonderful work. In an 8th grade unit focused on how artists create mood in a work of art, Kiki painted this self-portrait to express a calm, it's right over there behind Alex, to express a calm, positive energy. Through thoughtful choices in color, body language, props, and lighting, she successfully conveys a relaxed and inviting mood. And Kiki, this is wonderful and all well and good, but you better still play the trumpet. All right. Congratulations. Wonderful. And then for Chappaq, grade 12 AP Art, Tallulah McCran. Hi, Tallulah. As part of her AP Art research project, exploring how lighting affects a work of art, senior Tallulah McCran investigated the reflection of light on water and the way surface texture can enhance movement and energy. She used loose oil pastel brushstrokes and vibrant color choices to amplify the lighting and overall mood of the piece. Congratulations. And last but not least, from Chappaq, grade 9, Connor Carew. Connor, how are you? Okay, at the start of the semester, graphic design and computer illustration students completed a skill builder project, landscape or seascape. Sounds really fascinating. Sounds like you had to learn a lot of complicated stuff, Connor, right? Connor quickly stood out for going above and beyond expectations. He thoughtfully combined multiple complex shapes with precision and creativity, resulting in a detailed, polished final image that showcased both strong technical skill and artistic vision. Congratulations, and congratulations to all our artists.
Wow.
Do we usually, Ms. Pody, take a
Yeah,
chance to
I
look
think
at
it would be just take a quick break just to look at all the amazing artwork. That would be wonderful. Thank you. Such beautiful artwork. Thank you all, for our students, for sharing their amazing talents with us. Best part of our meetings, that's for sure. Moving on to public comment for agenda items. Is there anybody that would like to talk about any agenda items? Go for it, Eric. I know.
Over. Hi, how's everyone doing? I put my glasses on, sorry. All right, I just have two quick things. I got a letter I wrote, and then I just have some quick numbers. I'll read quick, so I stay within the 3 minutes. All right, good evening. My name is Eric Gazelle. I'm the new first selectman of Bridgewater. I'm learning a great deal in my new role here, especially about the complexities of Region 12. I want to begin by saying how appreciative I am of the work all of you do. As both a town official and a citizen, I'm generally proud of the excellent education we provide to the youngest members of our three communities. Bridgewater is the smallest of the three towns. We have 1,622 residents. Roxbury has 2,260, Washington 3,646. As you know, in 2014, we faced concerning projections about our own elementary school. We took creative and aggressive action to turn the tide with a multitude of solutions to appeal to young families. We're now stabilized and thriving. We worked together, we got creative, and along with the agri-science program, we saw real improvement. Burnham especially struggled with low enrollment, and we saw real improvement. In 2014, we took serious proactive steps to attract young families. Those efforts paid off. We're now stable and thriving. Today, we're facing a different kind of challenge. Region 12's budget is now 70% of Bridgewater's entire town budget. For comparison, Roxbury is 60%, Washington 53% of their overall budget. Last year, Bridgewater's percentage of students increased, which pushed our mill rate up a point to 19, significantly higher than our other partner towns. We don't have an issue paying our fair share of the percentage. It's not why I'm here. When the region was formed in 1967, Washington was to supply about 50% of the students, with Roxbury and Bridgewater splitting the remaining 50. Those assumptions were based on population. While overall town populations have remained fairly steady, the distribution of students across the three towns has changed dramatically. According to Peter Parada's last report, in 10 years, the town with the largest population in Grand List, Washington, is projected to have 33% of the elementary school students, Roxbury 36, Bridgewater 31. For Bridgewater taxpayers, this shift hits us in two ways. We're paying for our increased share of students, which we're fine with, we get it. We're also absorbing the financial impact of declining student numbers in other towns. We all, including me and everyone in Bridgewater, want to continue offering the very best education possible. Bridgewater by no means want to cut any educational services that are needed to continue Region 12 as the great region it is. But to do that sustainably, we need to think about long-term costs and consider potential solutions in Bridgewater. Are there ways to increase revenue without placing additional burdens on taxpayers? Are there creative cost savings measures that protect the quality of our schools? We Bridgewater, we're open to any and all suggestions. I'm here tonight because many of my Bridgewater residents are struggling. In my short time as first selectman, I've been surprised by the level of need in our community. Our food pantry is used more often than I ever knew or expected. The free food offered at our senior center disappears every week. Seniors on fixed incomes already facing rising costs of living tell us they're reaching their limit. As the smallest town in the district, taking on a larger portion of the Region 12 budget simply isn't sustainable for us. I have met with Don and Nicole in January to discuss these concerns, and I appreciate the time they gave us. At that time, and again today, I'm asking for a flat budget for the coming year. This would give us all time together to understand the trends, explore solutions, and plan for the future of our region. I truly look forward to working with the Board of Ed, the administration, the intermunicipal committee of Region 12 on the best path forward for Region 12 and all of our students. So I thank you for your time, willingness to listen, and for everything you do for the children of our three towns. And then I have one more thing, and this is more for the intermunicipal committee, which I'm part of now and stuff. I just want to make sure everybody knows. And I did talk, I got Peter Prada on the phone today, thanks to Don. 3 of these appendixes, the math just doesn't work. So on Appendix F, like the last item, I'm not going to read all these out. So 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 11 plus 11 plus 10 plus 8 does not equal 82. It equals 70 if you do the math. There's also M and L, which have the same thing. So again, these weren't used in Don's report that he gave us last month or anything with the pie charts and stuff. But there's a number in here that they just don't add up, was my only concern. I didn't figure it out until Friday when I was sitting late in the office, scratching my head, going through stuff. So I don't know what it means. I don't know what the solution is. I appreciate Region 12. When I got in touch with them, they immediately got back to me. We got in touch with Peter Potter. It's kind of a, I guess, copy and paste in his formula, Excel spreadsheet, which, hey, stuff happens, I get it, but I don't know. Nobody noticed that and just caught my attention. That's all on Friday, so I appreciate your time. And then if anybody has any questions about anything I said or concerns or suggestions, call me at my office. Just Google me. I'm there Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. I live at 101 New Milford Road East in Bridgewater. I'm there all the time if I'm not at work. So again, I appreciate all that you do, and I look forward to moving this region forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Any other public comments? Okay. Moving on. Consent agenda. Alex?
I've got it in front of me and I find, excuse me, I've got it in front of me and I find no corrections or additions, deletions of any kind.
Fantastic. I think Mary does.
Sorry.
It's okay. We seem to be
On my-
pointing out lots of mistakes.
My presentation of, for the Agri-Science Committee, Mike Brotman is going to be the person that's going to be the chef for the farm-to-table dinner. His last name is spelled Rottman, not Rodman.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay, so then we will approve the agenda with the
With that
change.
change, that's fine.
Can I have a second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So Stephanie made the motion. Okay, thank you. Okay, so it has been, thank you, amended. Thank you, Debbie. Okay, so moving on to the board chair's report. So I'm going to keep it light since, other than congratulating our the boys basketball team for winning. I wanted to, Lexi Thomas, who is a senior, she drops off the Spartan Times off at the senior center, and it's her senior project. And so she took it over. It's her newspaper, and last year her brother started it for his senior project. And I was reading it today, and I was thinking, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I thought, well, this is what I should just talk about, because it really is so informative, and it's positive, and I loved it, and I texted her, and I said, can you bring 11 more? So she dropped off 11 more so that I could share them with all of you, because I just think what she writes about was really something that we should all just be enjoying and reading and informative. She talks about, she interviewed Chris Dennis, which I thought was really interesting. It was an article about whether or not you should do school lunch versus home lunch, which I thought was a very riveting article, which I thought was interesting. Scholarships 101, which I thought was interesting. She talked about the Prep Solve Succeed, which is the SAT course, which I thought, again, all of it was really fascinating. And there's a section about the sports. And again, I just really loved it, and I thought it was something that we all should enjoy. So take one and pass it along. I think everybody should have a light read.
Why don't you half one way, half the other way?
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'd
and
like
so-
to have one every time it comes up.
Well, I
would love that.
will talk with her. She was the one keeping me informed about the game.
Great. Thank you.
So, pass it along. And she is informing, so I think the goal is to move it along so somebody will do it next year. So she has been coaching the next person. I'm not going to say who, but there's somebody that she's coaching that will be taking it on for next year for their senior project. And I just think it's a really great tradition that I hope just continues, and I love it. So I think that it's something that I hope just continues,
Thank you.
and I love it. So I think that's really great. Yes, Joe?
So this is available in like a newspaper type?
She goes and drops them off. She puts them in her trunk, old
Sorry,
school.
Sorry. So this is dispersed in a couple of different areas, right?
Yeah, she's dropping them off in all 3 towns. She brings them to the senior center, and old school. She puts them in her trunk, and she goes and she drops off at different areas. So
I know I've seen it in the bank in the one of the banks in the depot.
Yeah.
But isn't there like a newspaper type thing on the lawn of the
That-
town hall that?
that I believe was the gunneries.
Oh, okay.
Which I think is a really great idea. That Joe, that you're onto something. that maybe we should talk about investing in something like that.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
loving that.
I
It
think
should probably be available in each town, right?
Agreed.
It should be available in the town hall.
I think that's a really good idea, especially if this is something that's going to be passed on for, and I think I think that's a really good
It
idea.
should be a tradition.
I love it.
Absolutely.
I really love it. So
I think it's great that Peyton brought it back.
I think
right?
it's
And
great.
he did an awesome job with that.
Absolutely.
And for Lexi to carry
I
on with
know,
that.
I love it, and I love that somebody else is going to be, she's coaching somebody else to do it next year. So, and again, I just think it's a really great thing. I get excited when she drops them off. The seniors love it. We put it on the coffee table in the center of the room, and people come and they grab it. So I just think it's a really wonderful read, and so I think it's really wonderful to share. But it does also make me think a little bit about a project that we're working on, something that I have said that I wanted to do, and I've been kicking the can down the road myself just because I thought I was very jazzed up in the beginning of the year and had a lot on my plate. So Jesse and I and Don and Nicole have been working on communication throughout the district from the Board of Ed perspective. And so we're working on the Board of Ed page for the website. Is that right? So we're getting somebody to work on the Region 12 website. There's going to be a Board of Ed page that we will share information. And then we're going to do a flyer so that we can decide what kind of information and communication information that we're going to share with different topics. We're sort of in the process of working on that now. We're going to meet this week. I forgot what day is it. Tomorrow. Thank you. 3:30, I think. Yes. To decide what kind of topics we're going to share, and it's hopefully going to be really soon. But and then, especially with budget time coming up, we're kind of getting to the close to that. So it'll be shared through 3 towns, through the e-blast, and also Region 12 wide. So we're working on that with YouTube clips and information about students. If you want to share a little bit too, Jesse, I would encourage you. Well, we're just kind of brainstorming at the moment. So, because I asked his help because I have way too much on my brain.
No, I think there are a lot of good ideas have been expressed. Nicole came up with a great structure, and just to try to put it into the laps of the town residents, whether you're, someone connected to the schools because you've got kids in the school,
Yeah.
whether you're a town resident interested in knowing what your taxpayer dollars are doing.
Yeah.
You get something disseminated through the town on a monthly basis, and so you can keep up with things more easily.
So the goal is try to decide how that how the schedule will work. If we think we're gonna do monthly, but I think during budget time, I think it would be more important to do that more frequently since we meet frequently. It seems like all the time during budget time. So we're gonna kind of pin it down a little bit more. So that's a little bit more. That's exciting too. But that's it for me.
Okay, thanks, Jen. And before I start my report, I'd just like to make a comment to reassure our stakeholders and everyone present here tonight. I became aware when I was talking out of the corner of my peripheral vision that an image flashed on the board that I saw enough of it to know that it was abhorrent. I'm sorry that it darkened our doorstep. I don't want to give it much oxygen, but at the same time, I want to make a statement reaffirming who we are and what our mission is. I said earlier that our mission involves a place of belonging, safety, and inclusion, and nothing could be more antithetical to that than the clip that we saw, which runs counter to every fiber of our being. And I want to assure anyone who saw it, student, teacher, parent, community member, board member, that it has nothing to do with who we are, that we categorically reject that kind of mindset, as history has, and that I learned from Mr. Allen that we were Zoom bombed, and I will pursue every available pathway I can to investigate what happened. We have pretty good steps to ensure that people don't meander into our board Zooms. Sometimes they get around our security, and somebody chose to come on and share that abhorrent image, and I'm sorry that it happened. Okay.
Thanks, Don.
Yes. Thank you. As for the rest of my report, as I said to the board earlier today, we've been in the sort of a light news cycle in my Friday updates, but that's going to kick up a little bit now, I think, as we get into this part of the year. A couple of points of news. They just had FFA week at Chippewa, which is a big thing where the ag students do team building and activities, and they make a breakfast for the faculty, and they go on trips. And some of it got a little bit rescheduled because of those snow days, but they're going to finish the activities this week and next. And they did things like they went to an arcade laser tag center in Bethel, and they provided a faculty breakfast snack bar, and they're going to hold some crafting activities. It's a really nice way for them to connect with Chippewa. We know that our team won the championship tonight. Our elementary schools are participating in Jump Rope for Heart, and they've raised over $3,000 already. And next is the annual March Readathon, where it kicks off an entire month of class reading activities where they do fun things at school and at home to build student literacy. And you'll all note, if you look at the supplemental update I just sent you, you're invited, if you so desire, to participate in a panel for Career Day, because you've all got impressive backgrounds and experiences and skills that you might share with our students. And there's a link to a Google form to see if you can do this on March 13th from 8:15 to 11:30, where they're going to schedule panels for our students to visit different types of career options. So please consider that. In terms of personnel, I have a couple of points to make. We have an appointment. Lois Silver is going to be a paraeducator at a Booth Free School. And we have resignation. Zosia Olnazak was an agri-science operations assistant helping with barn maintenance. She resigned effective January 3rd. And Carrie Scher, guidance secretary at Chippewa Valley School, resigned effective February 20th. And I have a field trip notification for you, which is that our fifth graders would like to go to Old Sturbridge Village. As you know, is a wonderful recreation of an historic village, and the kids can get a lot of what it was like to live in the 18th and 19th century at that place. So we would like board support for that. Since it's out of state, we notify you. And later there's going to be a request for you to support the senior trip to Boston, which is out of state and overnight. That's an action item at the end, which is something that they do every year. It's fun for them. They learn a lot. They do historic things. They do fun things, and it's a great way for them to have a last fling together as a class. And those are my updates.
Thank you, Don. Treasurer's report, Alex.
I'm going to hold off on it and give it under my F&O report.
Okay. Committee reports, Agri-Science, Mary.
Nothing's changed since the last meeting.
Okay, thank you. Curriculum,
So we just had a short meeting earlier tonight. We discussed two things. Communication, just brainstorming ways to have consistent messaging between schools. And then we talked about the sequence of the math pathways and how you go from one course to the next. And we also had a brief discussion on physics in 9th grade.
thank you. Ed Advance, Joe.
Nothing new. Our next meeting is this Thursday.
Okay. Finance and Operations, back to Alex.
Yes, we had a meeting this morning at 10 a.m. Last week's meeting obviously was canceled because of the snow. Several issues that we went over. First, we went over the financials, making adjustments so that it's apples to apples. We're at the exact same spot now that we were a year ago at this time, of 15.8% of budget still available. Is that correct? Yeah. And there are some line items that went over things about health insurance for employees. Some of it's been moved from one line item to another, but it's basically it's budget zero effect. Let me just look at my notes here. We are finally away from Frontier for our phone service. I think that it was a battle to get rid of them, but they're long gone now, and you can see that. I think we're down, what, 30%? Was that the number, Don, you had? 30%. Yeah, and let me just see what else we've got here. We went over, with the audit, last year's audit has finally been completed, and the highlights are that the number that we'd said before of $684,108 will be returned back to the towns. There is going to be a slight adjustment on each town because last year they took the breakout percentage of the year the year before, rather than the year before that. So there's a slight adjustment, but it's $15,000 going from one town to another. One of the things I was happy to hear is our pension we're covered in our pension of over 94% coverage, which is a very significant amount. A lot of towns are well below that. Some of the bigger towns of the state are down in the 20s and percent and stuff. We talked about our strategic plan, the partnership between this was in the budget review. Don gave us a shorter version of what you saw tonight, and without numbers, of course, just sort of the prelude to the numbers. And I would go back and look at his presentation tonight again if you have any questions on that. And I think that is it. There was some discussion about how to make the budget open to towns in different segments of the towns. I believe the selectmen are coming tomorrow to have lunch here and or at the central office and discuss the budget. And then there'll be meeting with the different finance committees of the different towns. And one of the things I brought up was I was curious if we could even go further, but I don't want to put too much strain on Don and Nicole to have to give the same show multiple times. I'd like to make it somehow that there's a time that anybody that has interest can come, look at the budget, discuss it, and get any clarification that they may need. And that is it for me, unless anybody has any questions.
Alex, isn't that where our presentation that Don is going to give next time, a community presentation that anybody can come and give the workshop, to come and listen and decide, make comments about things? Isn't that correct?
Yeah, the budget workshop is a time
Yes.
where people can
Yes.
delve down into the nuts and bolts and deeper into the line items and ask questions and and have dialogue about that, yes.
Yes.
It's on the 9th. There's one on the 9th and one on the 16th. It's at the bottom of your, it's on, right here, on the bottom of your, yeah, okay. Yep. Thank you, Alex. Labor negotiations, Vicki?
Nothing new to report.
Okay, thank you. Policy.
Nothing new. Our next meeting is next Monday, the 9th.
Thanks, Justin. And nothing for me to report on long-range planning, so that is it. Old business, we have nothing to report. For new business, consider for approval the senior class trip to Boston on April 24th through the 26th, 2026. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Can I have a second? Second? Is there any discussion or questions?
Do they need chaperones?
That's what I was wondering. All in favor? Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Abstentions? You're going to Boston. Awesome. I would love to go, actually. Next is to appoint new members for the Agri-Science Advisory Committee. Mary.
Do you want to take it down?
Mike.
There are 4 members of the communities that that they've suggested. One is Tyson Averill, who owns Averill Farm. Alice Daly, who's on the executive director of Little Britches. Howie Bronson, who owns and has operated Maple Bank Farm for years in Roxbury, Tim Armbruster, the manager at Toplands, and Colin Campbell, the owner of Campbell Services in Bridgewater. And our committee has endorsed all of them. The other people that are going to be on that committee are from the other towns, and the other towns have already endorsed them and gave them a position on this committee. So we only have to actually endorse the 5 from here.
That's exactly right. And what we're working on right now, as many of you might know, there is a statute governing the advisory committee, and it provides that members should be appointed from each town and that they should be local experts who can advise, technically advise and support the program. And all the people on the list that you just heard Mary read from about are local and dedicated and have significant expertise in their fields and would be able to help our program, help advise and answer problems of practice. And then there are also folks who are appointed from many of our sending towns. David Jelen was appointed by the Board of Ed in Sherman. Diana Poprowski by the Board of Education in Newtown. You don't need to, this isn't something that you need to memorize, but I'll just have it on the record so there's no confusion. Samantha Galbraith appointed by the Board of Education in Danbury. Hans Relich from the Board of Education in Bethel. And Nick Puder and Alice Wilkinson from New Milford. So we have a really well-constructed committee in line with the statute, folks from all different places, a lot of diversity, all the towns are represented, and all of them are calculated to lead to some really productive meetings and really support our culture, our climate, and help us move forward and get better at what we're doing.
We're now going to have a standardized agenda, and then from what we've done at the last meeting, that I thought was wonderful, they broke into groups and worked with the people that have expertise in different areas, went and spoke with those people about what we need, what they can do, et cetera. And I thought that was a much better way of having an advisory committee meeting than what we had before.
How big is the advisory committee?
How many people?
Total?
You have
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Oh, that's a reasonable amount, okay.
Okay. So can I have a motion for Tyson Averill, Alice Daly, Howie Bronson, Tim Armbruster, and Colin Campbell?
And this is for a 3-year term.
3-year term.
Motion.
Motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstentions? Well, we welcome all 5. So thank you. That's exciting. Very exciting. Thank you. Thanks, Mary. Okay.
We all knew somebody on that committee.
great.
That was great.
Nicole, the annual fiscal audit.
You're all very lucky. You get a meeting where numbers start and numbers end, so.
Great. Bookends.
I'm going to go over the audit, which is, as Don had said, has now been completed. No. I'm just going to do some highlights. It was in the packet. I don't know if anybody took a look at it over the weekend. And I just want to say, if after you do take a look at it, after this meeting, if you want to look at it more in depth, if you have any questions, you can always email or call me. There's a lot of information in it, obviously, and I'm just going to jump around to some of the highlights that I think you might be most interested in. The first is that the audit's clean. There were no findings this year. There were no exceptions taken, so that's good news for us. If you are going to read any part of this, if you just kind of want to dip your toes in to see what the audit's all about, I would recommend that you read the management's discussion analysis. We call it the MD&A. It's on pages 4 to 11 of the audit, and that is internally prepared after we get all of the balance sheets and financial fund statements from the auditor. We prepare that report internally, and it's a nice overview of everything that's in the audit, kind of more from a layman's perspective than the GAAP accounting principles, which are a little bit trickier to digest. And from that page, one of the things that it explains is that our financials throughout this audit are presented in two ways. They're presented as government-wide financial statements and also as fund financial statements. The government-wide financial statements look at us more as if we're a privately held company, and they talk about our net position and what our ending year balances are and whether or not we were profitable. Where for us, we concentrate more on our fund financial statements, which tells you what the health of each of our funds are and how our budget was spent for the year, which is the fund financial statements have more relevance to what we do on a daily basis, but GAAP and the Department of Education requires that the auditors do also look at government-wide from a GAAP perspective. So if anyone's following along, I'm on page 6. This is still part of the MD&A. It's a nice place to start. So what this is going to show is our June 30th. It's a snapshot of our financial analysis as a whole, and it shows our numbers on June 30th of 25 compared to our numbers on June 30th of 24. And one thing that might jump out at you at this audit is that our cash position is $4+ million better at the end of June 30th than it was of 25 than it was in 24. And the reason for that is because last year the state of the Department of Ed released our final agri-science construction grant and a little over $5 million. So what that did is we took that cash in, and then we also used that cash to reduce one of our liabilities, which was $3.5 million. So that's why our cash position ended last year better than the prior year. That number is wholly driven by the ag grant being released. You're always going to see prepaid expenses in our audit, and you may think, what is this prepaid expense that kind of rolls from year to year? It's because we buy our oil a year in advance, and we do that in order to lock the price. So one of the things that I was happy about is that our oil is locked for next year already. We've already purchased our oil for next year, so any unrest that may be going on in the world isn't going to affect the oil prices we pay next year. We did lock our diesel at $2.79 and our heating oil at $2.74 for next fiscal year. So this prepaid expense is actually with reference to the oil we bought last year for this year's oil. But I was just mentioning we did also already buy for next year. If you look at our total liabilities, you can see they decreased about 30% by about $5 million. That's the same reason. The ag grant paid off the bond, so that reduced that outstanding bond liability. Those two numbers jumping like that from year to year is unusual. We usually are, the numbers stay more stable. So you may look at this, and if you were to go back and look at a different year's audit, you may think, what happened here? But that's what happened, was the construction grant got released. If you turn to page 8, kind of keeping along that same train of thought, you can see on this page, under the June 30th column of 2025, you can see the capital grants and contributions. You can see there the $5.6 million that I was talking about that was affecting the prior page. And then, as you can see, it helps our net position because we took in that grant funding and also released the liability of the bond. Our net position increased year to year considerably. So with that, I'm going to jump all the way to page 12, a whole 4 pages. So I promise we're going to go through a lot of pages pretty soon. One of the things that you're going to see throughout these financial statements, which is somewhat perplexing, is reference to OPEB. What that stands for is Other Post-Employment Benefits. That is really more of a GAAP or a GASB accounting principle where we have a liability on our balance sheet for the teacher's pension of the state of Connecticut. So while it's not a cash liability to us, accounting principles require that we carry it as a liability on our balance sheet. So it's a very large number. It's not a large number that we have to have cash reserves for unless something were to change in the law about the way the pension's administered. So there's lots and lots, many, many pages in this book are dedicated to that number and why the number is what it is and how it affects us, but it actually doesn't. So if you go to read about all of that, just understand it's part of the GAAP procedure that's required, but it's not cash that we're required to have on hand, and it's not an actual cash liability. It's a paper balance sheet entry. If on page 12, if you're looking through any of the balance sheets on page 12, you can see that sometimes we have in our liability account this entry for unearned revenue, and I've gotten a question before, what's unearned revenue? Because people sometimes think it's someone didn't pay their tuition bill, or what unearned revenue is it's grant funding we've received that we haven't yet expended as of June 30th. So it may be that we received Title I funding for a professional development that occurred in June, and we've got the funding from Title I, but we didn't get the bill yet, and the bill's going to come due in July. So that unearned revenue is just revenue we're holding that is due to an expense that hasn't been realized yet because of the timing of the fiscal year rolling over. And on page 16, talks about our funds and our fund balances, and this is the area that I think we want to focus on if you want to look at our financial health more than looking at the GAAP prepared balance sheets. So on page 16, it talks about our funds, and we do fund accounting. We have several funds. Each fund represents an actual dedicated cash bank account. So we have the general fund, which is the first on this page, and the general fund is our operating budget, and that's where the revenue from the towns come in, and where the expenses, our ordinary expenses, go out. That's what's linked to our budget. We also have a few other major funds: the debt service fund, the capital reserve fund, the capital project fund, and the building fund. When the legislature 2 years ago changed the 2% fund so that it's now called the Educational Expenditures Fund, it's no longer considered a major fund from accounting purposes. So if you're looking on this page under major funds and you're looking for that funding, you won't see it. So I will show you where it is a little bit later on a different page, but that's a deviation from the way we used to keep it, because when it was in the capital reserve fund, we would see the balance there, and we would say, okay, we have X dollars in the capital reserve fund. You can no longer see it because of the way the accounting principles are making it be handled, and the reason for that is GASB doesn't believe that the legislature defined the uses of those funds in such a way where they could be restricted. So they're now unrestricted funds because they don't have a specified purpose. So we can no longer call them a major fund, even though we have them in a segregated bank account for that for purpose that we would have major funds for in the past. So where you may think balances are going down, I'm going to show you where that money is on a different line item. Our non-major funds, I'll show you later on in the audit where you can find out what those are. There are student activity accounts, some of our scholarship funds. Our non-major funds are funds that we have fiduciary responsibility for, that run through the business office, that we manage on a day-to-day basis, but we don't actually own the funds. They belong to someone else, so they're restricted. And the other thing about this page 16, sometimes you may look at it and you see all of these amounts in quotes. And not quotes, in parentheses, and you might think, oh my God, that's a negative balance. It's not actually a negative balance. It's not trying to convey a deficit. It's trying to convey a change over the course of the year. So something could have a $10 million balance. You could see something in parentheses that says $200,000. It doesn't mean it went from 10 million to a negative 200. It means $200,000 changed from that $10 million balance. Alex, on page 18, Alex was talking about our pension fund. Pages 18 and 19 give really good detail about our pension fund. As he mentioned, it is 94.02% funded, which is a great position. There's currently $9.3 million in the fund. And on page 19, you can see the income that we've made on the fund this year, and also what we've paid out in pension benefits. So our employer contribution was $288,000. The fair value of our investments increased by $672,000. We received interest and dividends of $226,000, so that the total additions to our pension fund for the year was $1.145 million, and we paid out just under $550,000. So this is when we're going to get through lots of pages. So pages 20 to 49 are all of the notes to the financial statements. They're important. They go into detail about the actual statements. Some of them just talk generally about accounting principles. Some of them are specific to us. A couple of the ones that might be of interest to you that are specific to us, page 32 lists our outstanding debt. Page 35 shows how our investments in our pension plan are allocated and also what assumptions are made to get to the 94.02% funded. And page 41 does the same thing as page 35, but for the state of Connecticut teachers' pension as it relates to our retirees. And that pension is 62.68% funded. Am I losing anybody?
Following along intently.
The only other note that I want to talk about with all the notes, on page 49, I do get asked this question on occasion. Note 15 speaks to litigation and contingencies, and these are both general statements that you'll find in every financial statement. There's a section on litigation that says we're a defendant in various lawsuits. We aren't. It's just a general kind of catch-all statement that if we were, they don't know the outcomes of them. What would be listed there is if we did have a lawsuit, they would list the details on how much we might be exposed to and what our risk would be. We don't have any, but they put this catch-all in here to capture just a general statement about it. But if any, don't get nervous, we are not actually a defendant in any lawsuits. Page 50 is the page that we care about the most. So page 50 is our operating budget, what we actually expended in each category of expenditures, what we actually received in each category of revenue, and where our fund balance for the general operating fund was at the end of the year, which this is where it shows the fund balance is $684,000, and that's what's being returned to our towns. You can go through each category and see where we had surpluses and where we had deficits and how we got to the fund balance at the end of the year. And that's what will be dispersed to our towns. So flagging page 50 is probably, if you're going to get questions, that's the page to look at. And the only other two pages I'll mention is if you are interested in details on the pension and the 94% funding, there's many details about our our non-certified pension on page 54. And again, they do the teacher's pension on page, bear with me for a sec. $52 is the teacher's pension. It has many details. It goes back 10 years for the teacher's pension. And then a little bit earlier, I mentioned the funds that we're the fiduciary for. There are minor funds. They're not in our major funds. If you want to see those broken out as each minor fund, you can see those on page 58. Any questions? Tried to say it fast.
I just want to say thank you, because you're speaking a completely different language than the rest of us, and I'm in total awe of you.
Thanks.
Really, thank you so much for all that you do for our district, and I don't understand any of this, but thank God you do, because you're amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
Here, here.
The technical aspects of that audit are just off the charts, and so she's got the right stuff to handle it. So
I know.
That's why we love her.
We love you. Amazing.
can I say one more quick thing I forgot in my update before?
Sure.
So you're probably all sick of hearing from me about snow. I wrote a note to parents tonight, joking that half of them are probably going to get a restraining order against me if I call them or write to them again. But it seems like I do have another date with Johnny B in the morning. I don't know where it's going to lead. But we've had 7 snow days, and I've communicated with parents that will start talking about how to make those up. And I had even had a preliminary chat with Jen about it. But I took a look at the calendar the board adopted last year and what the contingencies are for how to handle snow days. And the note that you all approved last year, applying to now, is that snow days are to be added through June 26th. So we haven't hit that yet. Any additional days required will be taken from April break. And any additional days required in excess of that will be taken from the remaining days in June. So right now, I hope we don't have another snow day tomorrow. But if we did, that would be day 8. I think that would bring us, we still would not hit June 26th, though we'd be coming close. That might put us at the 24th or so. We have a little more time, and I hope no more snow days, that we can just honor what we said we were going to do and have those days in June. I know the later you go into June, folks get nervous about being here, but we have to convey that we're serious about delivering our product to our kids. And we did make space for this contingency, knowing it's New England, that there's enough room for some snow days. I think it's probably been a long time since we've had 7 or 8, but that's what the calendar says.
But do we have to go till the 26th, or can we consider talking about taking away from April vacation prior to going to the 26th?
Well, it's a question. I'd say the problem there is people rely on what we say in the calendar, and a lot of folks already have like tickets and flights.
Well,
and booked
but
and
they're
everything.
going to still have their tickets. So I think that's just the reality of what it is, right?
Well, if they're teachers, it's not so simple, who have those plans, and then we have a day of school, and they just aren't there, and they don't have vacation days as such
Well,
to
I
take.
think
It creates.
we'll sub. Kidding.
I think we have to go by what we stated on
it-
that calendar.
Is that what we?
Yes.
Is that last year's? Okay.
Can I,
Yes.
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
We have 100, state law says 180 days for a full year. We have 182 days. Can we take those last 2 days as part of our 6 days?
I
7
think
days.
boards of education can consider forgiving days. Doesn't mean you should or that you would, but I think you could.
So we
I'll
can
double
use
check
those.
that. Yeah.
Aren't so, and I could be wrong, my understanding, just as a parent, was that those built-in days, like if you had 182 or 183 days, those extra days were just that, extra days that if you didn't have snow days, yes, you went 183 days, but if you did have snow days, you kind of took from that, that extra pile and then didn't owe anything.
Yeah,
The surplus,
The
no.
culture's different everywhere. I mean, this is my first experience really thinking about it in Region 12. I feel like our history here has been to really honor the fact that the kids need the instructional hours, the instructional times, and we want to deliver them. Certainly, it's what we paid for contractually from our teachers. And I know I sound like Dolores Umbridge right now from Harry Potter, and I probably won't win any friends among students, but I think the best thing is to say that we have high expectations for what we're going to do. We want all our time with our kids. And if it got to be the 4th of July, we couldn't do that either. But right now, we seem to have, a little bit of room left, and I think we can weather it.
Stephanie.
Have the additional snow days altered, like 8th grade graduation or senior graduation, or are we going to keep those days?
No,
fixed?
so
you can't move. You can't move graduation anymore.
a
So
while
that-
ago,
Even though we add days, we'll just,
Graduation has to stay locked in. They just won't ever come back.
yeah.
state passed the law a couple of years ago. This used to be a thing because boards of ed would announce graduation like in April, and by then it's hard for grandma to get plane tickets from Minnesota and whatnot. So to allow for planning, they finally said, okay, you can announce it earlier and you can keep it even if snow days happen, as long as you have it posted at the beginning of the year, which we do. So legally, we can say we can stand by our graduation date. The challenging thing is we're still supposed to offer morally, legally, educationally, make-up days for seniors after that graduation day. And I can tell you that that's been a fairly, even despite the amazing personality that you see before you here today and the way I try to deploy it with our kids, I don't think I got many to come back after graduation day, even though we had activities and events and everything planned for them. So for the seniors, it's very challenging. And for the rest of the kids too, there's something about that graduation day. They want to feel like things are over. But teachers work very hard to give them exciting things to do those last days of summer so that we stand by our mission.
Christine.
So I know I conveyed this separately, but I do think we should look into if the state declared a state of emergency for any of these weather events, we should look into whether or not that means we need to add those at the end of the year, because there's some interpretations within the community that suggest we don't. If it was a state of emergency, those days are sort of forgiven in a way. I don't know if that's true. I'm just suggesting that we get an answer to that question or dispel that myth if it
Sure.
is a myth.
Okay.
But the other thing
I'll find
just,
that out, Christine.
that I will point out is I get that we want to give the kids all their hours, all their days. But again, as a parent, and all of us have seen this, the very end of school, there isn't a huge amount of instruction happening in those final days. So let's be very balanced when we look at this, because it does matter.
Well, that's fair enough, Christine. And it's true that, you know, given human nature, when you get towards the end of something, the nature of what's happening might not have the same exact degree of rigor as before. But when you get up into the case of Chippewa, especially the high school, they are up against literally final exams and final presentations during those last days. So for them, it's, you know, it's a ball of wax. They could compress it, and this board could, I'm sure, has some power to forgive some days because we already have more than the state minimum. But I haven't interpreted that to be the will of the board. I can do more research on it or figure out where this board stands on it, and I can find out about your state of emergency question. I'll find out. Yeah.
I think, Don, you can ask, when that email came in, I was with Sylvia, and she said that when Oxford had all of those floods last year, they, I guess, Oxford was declared a state of emergency, and they looked into that, and they were told you couldn't do it. But absolutely.
Yeah.
look into it.
You know, this is a thing in other nearby states, and also some states allow districts to still do remote learning in lieu of a snow day, which Connecticut will not have. So right now, I don't know how many degrees of freedom we're going to have, but I'll find out for you all, okay? And the next board meeting, maybe we can talk about it a little bit.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Can I have a motion to go into executive session? Second? All in favor? Thank you. Do we need Nicole? No. No. Okay, you? What?
I have packets with budget details if anybody wants to look
Yes,
through
please.
details before the workshop.
Thank you.
That was no bueno.
We have to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Wait,
Second.
secretary, do you have it? Yep. Who's this? You have the secretary?
All right, I second. Let's go.
Who wants to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
All in favor?